I remember back in primary school watching this program about School of the Air. And this was a distance education program in Australia for children that were living way out in the country on the large cattle and sheep stations where they had no access to a local school. And so they were doing it over the airwaves, and they would get on the radio and have lessons with their teacher and do their other stuff at home. And then they would have a teacher that would go from station to station to go and spend time with the children and do some one-on-one and assess where they are at. And I remember thinking how cool that was. These kids might not have thought that it was cool. Their only child for ages away. But, you look at how far we've come, from like School of the Air back there in the 80s to the introduction of the internet. And now like this full on sort of e-learning that we've got going on, how that has really helped our distant learners. And that's what I want to look at today. Hi, and welcome to Learning Life, and thank you so much for joining me. Distance learning, that's online learning. Like, it's great. Like with this, we can learn from these videos, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like and shoot me your comments. I would love to hear them. Well, distance learning, what is it? Really, it's when you are learning not in a brick and mortar, an actual sort of physical school or university, whatever it is. It is learning from home. It is learning remotely. And if you often look up like distance education programs, you're often seeing more university style stuff. But I want to look at today in relation really to the e-learning that we're seeing that's going on, the remote learning, the online learning that we're having, largely because of COVID and quarantine, and what that really did to our school systems of like, oh, how do we make this work? And you saw this huge big rise of people going, oh, distant learning can actually work. This can be good for our students. Distance learning is actually okay. We've seen some hybrid models. We've seen, so many schools are offering either at the school or you can be doing it the e-learning, remote learning with the teacher. I really feel for those teachers having to do both, but for many parents, they were thrust into it. There was really no choice. It's not like that they were choosing to homeschool and really could choose their curriculum. Though as one school year finished and a new one began over here in the States, some parents really did decide, we're just going to take that homeschooling option, but can still use some of these distance education programs, like the K-12 curriculum, which is online public school. That's what it is. And there are other online academies where you can do your entire schooling, where you've got all your teachers and the parents can sort of say, here you go, here is your schooling, off you go. You're not picking your curriculum. So in my mind, we sort of have this switch really between of like that homeschooling to those who are remote learning right now, because the plan is really to be going back like into schools. It's become a confusing time, but it sort of makes you go, ooh, is this the learning of the future? Like, do we need schools? Yes, we do. But is online learning good? Yes, it is. So let's look at some advantages of this distant, remote e-learning. Outside teacher support. When you're doing these online programs or the remote learning with your teachers, you have outside teacher support. It's not like homeschooling where it is the parent. And for many parents, it's like, this is great. My child has to check in with teachers. They are having online classes with teachers. I know some parents have complained about all the Zoom classes, but these have been good. Having that teacher support is extremely helpful, especially if you are struggling as a parent of knowing, am I doing things the right way? Introverted students can get involved. Now that sort of sounds like a little funny, like, don't introverted students get involved in class? Look, honestly, I'm introverted, and I remember at school being like, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. I actually like to prepare my answer. I'd sort of be thinking things over just in case I might be asked one of these 10 questions. So for introverted students, e-learning can actually be good, especially if you've got your list of assignments and oh, here is an online chat. You can actually prepare for it, and you're not so much feeling called on the spot to be answering questions. Speaking with a number of families that do have introverted students, they have found that their students have been more comfortable and felt more engaged actually in their schoolwork when some of the stress of like, am I going to be called upon, is, taken off them. Students have more learning options. This can be great. And by this, I mean like subjects. Maybe there is a subject your student wants to learn. Latin, for example, or French, but your school doesn't offer it. Well, with e-learning opportunities, distant learning opportunities, you can do these subjects. Maybe your online academy doesn't have it, but there are still other ones that you can draw from to add into. And this is great that you can add what your students are interested in, also to make sure that they get their well-rounded education. But this is a huge benefit. A comfortable learning environment. Home. It's comfortable, right? PJs, they're comfortable, right? This can be great for distance learning. Do you want to learn on your bed? Do you want to learn sitting on the floor, on the couch, at your own remote workstation, setting it up how you want? Having these comfortable learning environments is extremely helpful for students, and it just helps them, I feel like, to engage. You need to sit on that exercise ball, then sit on that exercise ball. You need to stand and walk while you are learning. You really have more opportunities for that, and I'm all for that. Fewer distractions. I think this is a good thing, right? Fewer distractions, though I think parents who are working from home sort of go, oh, well, there's the kitchen to clean and there's, we can find all these things. But for students, especially not being in a noisy classroom, it can really help to focus on the lesson and you're not being distracted by this person talking over here or that discussion going on. So having less distractions can really help benefit the students in their learning. There are, of course, more advantages to e-learning and online learning. To me, one of them is like not having to do a group project. Well, you can check out on the website. I'll actually have some more listed there. But let's look at some of the disadvantages of this remote learning, this e-learning. Maybe not having immediate teacher feedback. Even in an online class or a Zoom call, being able to raise your hand and ask a question is hard, especially when a teacher's got all like these little screens to be looking at. So not having maybe that immediate feedback can be a challenge for some students, especially if they're struggling with it. Like, how do I move forward in this? Or are they going to stall? Cheating on tests. This is a tough one, especially if you maybe have some older students and you're not around and we've got all these tests. Yeah, all of these online academies are going to be having their tests. It's sort of hard, unless you're really sitting there to make sure that your child is not, using their book or whatever. It's really hard to sort of to fully proctor. You have to trust your students. And, when you look at that and understand that there is that possibility for doing more like book tests and finding those answers, are we really gauging where our students truly are at? E-learning lacks some of that face-to-face communication. Yes, we're seeing, especially if there's schools that are offering, at home or in classrooms. So there's this Zoom class going on. You can have that face-to-face, but a lot of the bigger, even academies aren't going to be having all these online classes. So your students in a way are a little more isolated. They're not going to be getting these group discussions or maybe this back and forth. And that, can be a little sad. Like I actually love discussion-based learning. And so to not have that to me is a disadvantage. Online learning is dependent on internet and computer access and computer literacy. If you're in an area that does not have good, stable internet, or you can't afford internet, then you really are struggling to be able to have that. And many families through the whole COVID crisis found this. Maybe they didn't have enough computers for all of their kids at home, or it wasn't, your bandwidth wasn't fully supporting, like everybody needing to be online. And then you have those that maybe have just struggled with computers. If you're at home and you don't have this full support, this can be hard. To me, that is a disadvantage because you do need stable internet. You do need a decent computer or tablet to be able to do good, solid online learning. So much screen time. This one is a challenge, like especially if you have younger students. I struggle with just seeing like how much time is needed, like especially if you're doing a full online academy or full online distance education, like hours a day. And I've seen like for kindergartners being expected to be on like a total of several hours a day to try. This is kindergarten. This is really taxing on the brain, and it does create stress, and they do need some breaks from it. So parents, if your child is doing a full online, and that is great, that is your choice, make sure they are getting breaks from screen time, that they are getting up and moving around, that they are getting outside, because otherwise we are really doing a whole lot of brain and eye strain as they're doing everything online. Again, there are some more disadvantages. You can check them out online at LearningThis.Life with the blog post that goes along with this video. But thank you so much for watching today. As I said, we've gone a long way from like these distance education programs, which were on radio waves, to now being online, and really this is just the beginning of really seeing so many more changes in education. So we all need to stay tuned for what's going to be happening next. Well, thank you for watching. And if you enjoy these videos and would like to be part of our community, do join. And one way that you can do that is by supporting us through Patreon. And you can check that out at patreon.com or check it out on my website, LearningThis.Life.